Hello everyone. The movie opens with a TV documentary featuring Chef Auguste Gusteau, the youngest chef in France to receive a 5-star rating and owner of the best restaurant in Paris. He's also the author of a best-selling cookbook that proudly bears his mantra, "Anyone can cook." Just then the TV news ended. A rat was afterwards seen emerging through the window. In this city, there are many more rats living together and moving about in quest of food. The name of this rat is Remy. But he has amazing talents. First of all, he is very clever and he can tell the food is good or bad by just smelling the food. Anyway, a rat finds vanilla cake while looking for food. When the rat was about to eat the cake, Remy sniffed and shouted, "Brother, don't eat it." Then he looks around and finds rat poison. That's how he helps his rat friends. And that's why his father is so proud of him. Remy basically likes to eat good food. And he thinks all the time if the engine means the stomach is fine, then the day goes much better. But his father says that it is not right to eat too much, then the engine can stop at any time. Remy always says, "Dad, why can't we steal good food from the kitchen and eat? Why do you always forbid us?" Then his father said, "We are rats, but we are not thieves." His father says death is certain if he ever goes near the kitchen and the people. These matters are sometimes argued between the father and son. But Remy thinks they must go to the people. People not only cook good food, but they also discover a lot. So he entered a house to steal food. Just then, he sees a cooking show on TV. And the name of the chef is Auguste Gusteau. Remy takes a bite out of the cake and strawberries, remembering the different types of food. Just then the owner of the house comes into the kitchen and he ran out the window. Later, while he was returning home with a mushroom from the grain field, he meets his brother. The two brothers then climbed onto a huge building to cook food together, but after a while, they were struck by lightning and fell to the ground. Later, he smelled a few fried mushrooms and said, "Looks so tasty, but I think if I could add a little saffron, it would taste a lot better." Then his brother says, "Where can you find saffron?" Hearing this, Remy ran to fetch the saffron. He makes his brother stand downstairs and looks for a jar. While searching for the jar, he found a book by Chef Gusteau. Then his brother asked him if he can read or not. Remy says, "Yes, I can do a little," but he forbids his brother to tell this to their father. Then he got the jar of saffron. Chef Gusteau's show was on TV at that time. At one point Remy learns that Chef Gusteau is dead. Remy is very sad to hear this. And just then the housewife wakes up. She then tried to shoot at them with a gun, but unfortunately, bullets did not come out, but an umbrella stuck in the barrel of the gun. She then aims and shoots at the rats. The two brothers then started running back and forth. However, suddenly Remy's brother climbed on the chandelier. Later, as soon as the woman tries to shoot, it was seen that all the bullets of her gun were over. Then she started loading the gun. After that, Remy raises his hand to save his brother. But poor Remy hangs himself with that chandelier. The woman then aimed her gun and fired for the last time. Shortly after the firing, the roof of the building collapsed and fell down. Hundreds of rats come out of there. In fact, all the rats that lived here never stole food from the house. Only Remy did this kind of unethical activities, whereas everyone else was innocent rats. After being shot, everyone started running back and forth. Everyone ran with their lives, but Remy kept running with the book. Then they started crossing the river through the paddy fields. Even if all the rats get on a boat, Remy can't get on that boat. The woman shot him just as he was about to board the boat. The boat then sailed into a tunnel. Shortly afterward, he lost his entire family. He calls his father, but gets no response. After a while, he fell into massive currents. He struggles frantically to keep afloat. Luckily, Remy grabs the book and somehow survives. He then took refuge in a high place in the tunnel. He is eagerly waiting for his parents, siblings, or anyone else to call him. But he can't find anyone in his family. Sitting alone, he reads Gusto's book. Seeing the variety of food inside the book, he feels severe appetite. Then he begins to talk imaginatively with Gusto's picture inside the book. Gusto says, "If you want to survive, you must get out of here. Why don't you go somewhere upstairs?" Remy then goes up the tunnel through the pipe in search of food. After a while, he comes running to a party. Then he sees butter bun there. Seeing this, he wants to eat that butter bun. And just then Gusto comes to the imagination and says, "Why are you stealing food? You must remember that you are a cook. Cooks never steal food, rather they cook food for others." Hearing this, poor Remy put the butter bun piece down and started running upstairs once more. One pipe after another, he just kept running. At one point, however, he ran up to the roof. Then he looked at the Eiffel Tower and said, "Oh my God, I've been in Paris for so long." And then he sees Gusto's picture next to him. Remy keeps saying, "You brought me to your restaurant." Then he runs inside the restaurant. He sees that various kinds of food are being cooked in the kitchen. The head chef is taking care of everything. This guy comes here for a job. The boy's name is Alfredo Linguini. Linguini then pulls out a letter and gives it to the head chef. He took the letter in his hand and said, "Well, I'll call you if we need you." A man standing nearby says, "We need a servant boy," and he's the son of Gusto's girlfriend. Now the head chef says, "Okay then, you are given the job of cleaning the kitchen," but he did not open the letter nor read it. Remy was watching all this from above. Gusto then says, "Everyone you see here is part of the kitchen." Remy says, "Everyone might be part of the kitchen, but I don't think this guy can be a chef ever." Gusto then gets angry and says, "Did you forget I wrote in my book that anyone can cook?" While Gusto was saying these things to Remy, Linguini started cooking by mixing different things in the soup. However, in the meantime, Remy hurried down and fell into the basin. Poor Remy somehow runs around the kitchen trying to get to the soup. Remy is in so much trouble. However, he finally reached the soup. On the other hand, Linguini vomits after eating some of his own cooked soup. Later, in the soup cooked, Remy adds all kinds of spices, vegetables, and everything that is needed to make it tasty enough. In a word, he started cooking himself. Just then the boy Linguini sees all these things. The two looked at each other for a while. After that, the head chef comes to take the soup. After getting an opportunity, Linguini instantly covers Remy with a lid. The head chef grabs Linguini's collar and says, "Bastard, how dare you come to my kitchen and cook soup? I will kill you today." Soon after, a waiter comes and takes some soup from there to serve the customers. Seeing that, the head chef starts running after him so that no one would be allowed to eat the soup. But the head chef realizes that there is no commotion inside. The head chef then goes outside and looks at the inside with a ladder. Just then a woman inside asks about the soup. Hearing this, after a while, a waiter comes from inside and says that the customers are calling the head chef. On the other hand, a lady cook says that the man sitting there is not really our customer, he has come to slander us. And our bad luck, this soup is in his destiny. But surprisingly, the head chef comes out from inside and says that the man liked the soup a lot. Still, the head chef wants to fire the boy. But the rest say, "Have you forgot Gusto had a saying that anyone can cook?" The chef then gives Linguini the job of cooking soup, and says from now on he will lie on him. Just then they see the rat and all together they become desperate to kill the rat. However, Linguini grabs the rat and traps it in a container. The head chef tells them to kill it instantly. Everyone else is ready to kill the rat, but Linguini says if we kill rats in the kitchen, the reputation of our restaurant will be tarnished. I'll take it out and kill it." He then cycled to the river with the container. When he tries to throw the container into the water, the rat looks at him with enchanted eyes. "Don't look at me like that," says Linguini. "You did not endanger yourself, but also endangered me. Who said to cook you so well? I've seen everything, but I really need the job." Then he says, "You are a rat. Why am I talking to you?" But he sees the rat nodding its head from the inside. He then asks, "Do you understand me?" The rat nodded in response. Then he says, "You can cook very well. But I can't cook at all." As soon as he said this, the container was mistakenly fell into the water. Linguini then jumps into the water and saves the rat while picking the container up. Then he says, "Okay, since you can cook, you are my partner from today. You will help me with everything. Then I will make you free." The rat then agreed to this. When he opened the lid of the container, the rat runs away. Linguini is upset and wants to go home riding his bicycle. But seeing all this, the rat felt very sorry for him. After a while, the rat came back to him. He is very happy and goes home with the rat. Linguini shows the rat everything around the room. "Everything is for you. Everything you have in this room, when you need it, you will use it for yourself." Then they both fell asleep. Linguini wakes up and starts looking for the rat. But he sees that all the food in her fridge is gone. But turning back, he sees that the rat had cooked food for him. He tasted the food, it was really appetizing. He asks, "What have you mixed with it?" The rat then points out and shows something. Linguini then says, "The food you cooked is really very tasty, but you will never steal anyone's things. I'll buy you everything you need, okay?" Then they head out to the restaurant together. After that, the rest of the restaurant's chefs read about the restaurant's reputation, printed in the newspapers. Newspapers have reported that the god of taste has returned to Gusto's restaurant once again. The soup in particular was so delicious that is unimaginable. On the other side, Linguini stands outside the room, and whenever he was about to enter the room he gets worried. Because where will he keep the rat? At first, he said in his mind, "Okay, I'll hide you inside my shirt." But then he hides the rat inside his pant. He pointed out the rat and says, "Don't hurt me, please. You have to stay here. You and I are partners, isn't it? And one partner never harms the other." Then he enters the kitchen. While cooking, the rat starts biting different parts of his body. Poor Linguini tries hard to cook properly. But at one point he became unbearable and moved to the kitchen warehouse. He took the rat out of his pants and said, "Look what you have done to me. Tell me how to cook if you move so much inside my pant? But I can't cook without you. Okay, let me make a plan so that you can direct me on how to cook." He continues to explain these things to the rat. But on the other side of the door, the head chef observes someone is talking inside. He then goes in and sees the rat. But the rat hides instantly, he can no longer find the rat. Chef then leaves rebuking Linguini. Linguini, in fact, hid the rat in a huge hat over his head. Somehow they come back home that day. Here we are shown, as the rat pulls Linguini's hair, he moves back and forth. Then the two of them blindfolded and began to practice how here the plan reveals. The rat will sit on his head and will give him direction holding the hair when to add any ingredient. After practicing like this many times, the rat taught Linguini to cook a lot of good food, directing him from inside the hat. The next day he goes to the restaurant and cooks the soup again. Basically, the rat gives him the right instructions to help him cook. The head chef is very satisfied after eating the soup. One day, the head chef found the letter, written by Linguini's mother, in one of the many letters. It says Linguini is Gusto's son. Hearing this, the head chef gets very angry. Because it was written in the will that if heir of Gusto comes in 2 years, then the main chef will become the owner of this restaurant. But the chef is now restless with anxiety. Says, Linguini is Gusto's son, but he is still unaware of it. He calms down a bit when he hears this. After that, a lady chef starts teaching Linguini to cook many more food items. In this way, they spend the whole day in the kitchen. The next day, many customers come to the restaurant. Everyone wants to eat new food items from the same cook, who previously cooked that soup. The head chef thinks this is an opportunity. Now I will kick Linguini out of the restaurant. He then asks Linguini to cook a new item. What will Linguini do now? Although he doesn't have any sense of cooking, he starts collecting several spices by guessing. Basically, when he lifts vegetables and spices over his head, the rat guides him on which one to take and which one is to skip. That's how he makes a new dish that day after much effort. Then suddenly a waiter comes and takes the dish to the customer. After that, the head chef is happy in his mind, thinking, this time the boy might be, but after a while, the waiter comes back and says that the food is very much liked by the customers. Then the whole crowd in the restaurant just started ordering Linguini's special food. Only Linguini's food is served with fanfare throughout the restaurant. All the customers eat Linguini's food and praise him. However, Linguini takes the rat to another room and says, serving him a variety of food, "You have done a lot of work today. Thank you very much." After a while, the rat sees another rat there. He takes a knife to knock it out. But when he goes nearby, he sees that it is no one else, but his lost brother. He then brings expensive food from the restaurant for his brother. After having the meal, his brother tells him, "Do you know the rest of us are alive? We missed you so much." The rat then goes back to the rest of the rats. His parents, brothers, and sisters are all very happy to have him. All the rats organized a big party for his return. They all keep asking him where he has been for so long. Then his father tells him that no matter what he does, he should always stay away from people. Remy says no, people aren't that bad. His father then says, "Okay, let me show you something." Then his father shows him how people have killed so many rats and hung them. Seeing these, he gets very upset. But Remy says, "No, I never want to die like that, I want to do something good." After that, the head chef lures Linguini into drinking, trying to find out the truth, but fails. The head chef then asks Linguini to clean the whole kitchen. Seeing this, he fell unconscious. In the morning, Remy returned to the restaurant. When Remy comes to the kitchen, he sees Linguini sleeping. Then he grabbed him by the hair and started waking him up. Just then the lady chef enters the kitchen. She started talking to him in various ways. But Linguini is sleeping soundly. Rat is pulling Linguini's hair back and forth from the inside. At one point, Colette says, "I helped you become a much better chef. And now you don't even want to talk to me. I liked you, but you are like all other people." Saying this, he slapped Linguini. Poor Linguini wakes up after being slapped. Colette gets angry and goes out with her scooter. Soon after, Linguini stops her on the street and says, "I like you too. If you hadn't helped me today, I probably would never have learned to cook. Because of you, I'm getting so much praise from everyone. And today, I'm going to tell you about one of my secrets." Then whenever he wants to tell her about the rat pulls her hair and makes him kiss the girl. This is how the clever rat made the girl fall in love with him. Boyfriend-girlfriend were having a fun time. One day they went out on a bike together. The bike was moving so fast that the rat inside the hat fell off from his head. And Linguini doesn't even notice it nor look back. Seeing this, the rat becomes very upset and left. But after a while, he met the rest of the rats. All the rats then crave food from Remy. But when he goes to the restaurant, he sees that the restaurant is locked. Then he quietly goes to find the key. While searching for the key, the rat finds the letter, stating that Linguini is the real owner of the restaurant. He instantly starts off with the letter. The head chef sees him running with the letter. The rat runs with the paper and then the head chef chases him with a bike. Risking his life, Remy runs with the paper. Running through walls, the rat jumped on the ship in the river. The head chef, on the other hand, fell into the water while following him. He can't catch the rat anymore. The rat fooled him and left. The main chef coming to the restaurant and telling Linguini to get out of his restaurant. Colette then says it's no longer your restaurant. From now on it is Linguini's restaurant. Soon after, the rat can be seen next to them. News of Linguini, the new owner of the restaurant, spread through the pages of newspapers throughout the city. The head chef secretly watches the news and becomes furious. Then many journalists come to interview Linguini. He gives all the credit to Colette. The rat, on the other hand, begins to irritate him. Suddenly a skinny man enters their restaurant. By the way, he is a big hater of this restaurant. He says tomorrow I will test the food in your restaurant. Let's see how good you cook. Saying this, he left. Then Linguini takes out the rat and says, "Why didn't you let me do the interview?" "Well, I understand you're angry that I gave all the credit to my girlfriend, right? You are my real friend. I have come to this stage today because of you." And then the head chef sees the rat from a distance. He realizes that this rat is the real cook. After that, the rest of the rats met with Remy that day. Remy says, "Well, today I will cook and feed you all." Saying this, all the rats enter the restaurant. Then they all start collecting vegetables and spices for cooking. Then when Linguini returns to the restaurant, he sees a number of rats. Linguini, after seeing all this, says, "I thought you were my friend and you are here to steal." Saying this, he chased away all the other rats with a broom. Remy gets upset and says, "Dad, you were right. We should really stay away from people. Humans can never be friends with rats." Being disappointed, they left. The next day, the man comes to the restaurant to eat. But no one can cook a dish that would be extremely delicious. Linguini kept mumbling, he had nothing to do. After that, while Remy was looking for food, the head chef captured him. But all the other rats rescued Remy from there. After that, in the restaurant, the time allotted for finishing cooking seems to be running out. That person repetitively looks at the watch in his hand. After a while, Remy appears there. Linguini is very happy to see him. Then he started telling all the chefs the story behind his cooking so well. Then he says, "This little rat will cook all the dishes today. Do you all agree with me?" But no one agrees with him. One by one all the chefs left. Even his girlfriend misunderstood him and left. Linguini then sits helplessly as the man in the inner room waits for food. The rat then tells his father that we must help Linguini. His father then tells him, "I'm sorry. I misunderstood you and your friend." Then all the rats start cooking. Unfortunately, after a while the health inspector comes there. He sees only rats all over the kitchen. But whenever he wants to return, the rest of the rats capture him. Soon after, all rats start their cooking activities. Remy divided each task amongst a number of rats. Linguini is very surprised to see all this through the window. All the customers outside are waiting for food. After that, all the rats in the kitchen have started cooking at a great speed. Shortly after, Linguini's girlfriend returns. She comes and sees a lot of rats cooking in the kitchen. When she wants to leave, Linguini explains everything to her. In a short time, the rats cooked a lot of food. They made a special dish called Ratatouille for that person. Then Linguini starts feeding everyone. And let that person eat special Ratatouille. The person goes back to his childhood as soon as he takes a bite. In fact, his mother used to cook such delicious foods. But the funniest thing is that the head chef also came to eat that day, being hidden. He goes to the kitchen after having the special ratatouille. He asks, "Who cooked this dish?" Then he sees that the kitchen is filled only with numerous rats. The rest of the rats immediately locked him in a room. On the other hand, the person eats ratatouille and praises them a lot. Then he says, "I want to meet the person who cooked this food." Linguini and his girlfriend say, "That's why you must wait for all the customers to leave." When all the customers are gone, they bring the rat in front of him. Linguini says it is this rat that cooked all the foods today. He was really surprised to hear that. The next day he did not write bad things about this restaurant in his newspaper but published good things. He also disclosed about the rat Remy in his newspaper. But unfortunately, after that Auguste Gusteau's restaurant shut down forever. You may be wondering why the restaurant closed like this. What happened to the rat, right? The reality is that later they started another restaurant and named it Ratatouille. And the newspaper editor person now learns to cook in this restaurant. This is how rats and humans start spending their days happily and peacefully. And the movie also completes on this scene.